Good morning, ASEAN. Welcome to ASEAN BIZ. We'll be bringing you business updates. Our main story for today, which is the great Greece bailout and funny moments. What else are we having, Eric?
Yeah, we will be, this is Eric here. Good morning, listeners. We will be having some current business updates. Today we will be looking into Malaysia Ringgit in particular.
Right.
And beside funny business moments, we also have the Health is Wealth sessions. Okay, it's just a 2 minutes tips on health.
Right. Shall we start our session today by bringing you business updates from all over the world?
Yeah, sure. That will be interesting.
What's our story today, Eric?
Yeah, we will be looking at our Malaysia Ringgit against the US dollars in the next coming months.
Yeah,
okay?
The ringgit has been going through some very exciting moments lately, isn't it?
Yeah, true. And people have been very uneasy about it.
Some people are very worried, anxious.
Tension, and tension is everywhere. Okay.
What's the rate like right now, Eric?
Well, looking at it, we are looking at about 3.8.
Wow,
the latest to a
high.
US dollar. That's very high. And in fact, we have that experience since 1997, 96, 98.
When the government pegged the ringgit.
Pegged the rates, yeah. Okay, so now we are back 20 years ago where we pegged the rates. Right.
What's your forecast on the direction, Eric, on the ringgit USD in the coming, say, 3 to 6 months?
Well, on the outlook of the ringgit, it does not look optimistic in the coming months, as we can see that the weakening against most currency within the ASEAN regions, such as the Singapore dollars, the rupiah, the pesos, even the Thai bahts, our neighboring country, is performing stronger than our Malaysia ringgit.
Yeah, all are stronger against our ringgit.
Yes.
That's bad.
And there are a few contributing factors to the weakening of the Malaysia ringgit. So some of these are domestic and some of these are international external factors. Okay, mainly the number one, at this current moment, we are having a political confusion, right? Where the common people are very uncertain about the leadership, which leads to trade confidence being affected. And according to the Tourism Malaysia Industry Development Division Director, Encik Saidi Badan, yesterday, there is a massive plunge of 27% in tourist income in the first quarter of 2015 as compared to the same period in 2014. And in 2014, there's a reported tourist spending of 21 billion. Can you imagine that?
So I believe, according to another minister, with the ringgit at such a very cheap rate, it will attract more tourists to our country shortly, but it's the confidence level that's affecting the tourist influx right now, right? And also the soft pricing of the local commodities like crude oil, LNG, and palm oil. This also affects our Malaysian ringgit. And our household debt remains high at 87% of GDP. That's high.
That's very high. Okay, for a developing country, that's very high, right? Mm-hmm. And there's also economic uncertainties in the external factors, where the US are planning to normalize their interest rate. This will greatly impact the capital inflow to the country. Okay, and also the latest updates on our trade balance. There's a drop in the trade balance. Malaysia reported a 7 billion trade surplus in April of 2015, significantly down from 8 billion a year.
Wow, that's a
year earlier.
1 billion.
Okay, so which means that we are exporting lesser and importing more.
That's why our ringgit is weaker.
So our ringgit is weaker.
All these factors add up to a weaker ringgit.
Yes. Of course, there are more technical factors, but these are the few factors that the common people are actually looking into.
So right now, the fact is, our ringgit is weak. So the next question would be, say for those who are having children studying overseas, I believe there are a lot of people sending children overseas to study, right?
Yes.
And paying in USD. Would you advise them, Eric, to buy USD now at 380 or to wait and buy or pay their children's education fees later, bearing in mind that they might have to pay, say, 4.0 or 4.2 maybe even 4.5, to the dollar. That's very dangerous, right?
Yes.
And on the other hand, what if it strengthens? Bearing in mind that our Bank Negara Governor's statement that our ringgit's weakness is only temporary. We do not know exactly temporary means how many months.
Let's take the word temporary. It can be 1 week, it can be 2 weeks, or it can be 1 year, or it can be 2 years.
So this means that a wrong decision or advice in selecting the direction of the ringgit in the near future will result in us losing a lot of money in exchange. Say, for example, paying much more money for your children's education. What do you say of that, Eric?
Okay. Looking at the above factors, which I mentioned earlier, okay, it's not surprising that the ringgit may weaken to $4 ringgit to $1 in the next few months, and this could be detrimental to those who send their children overseas.
It might burn a bigger hole in their pockets.
The hole will be bigger, and they will end up paying more. And there are cases happens where the ringgit actually weakens, so-called keep on weakening against certain currencies. Let's look at Singapore dollars. Okay. It used to be 1:1, and now it's 2.77 to 1 Singapore dollar as of yesterday. So we can see the trend that Malaysia ringgit
Right, Eric. We have heard enough complaints.
Okay. So it's not complaint, it's a fact. We are looking at the trend. So it's up to our listeners to actually make a decision for themselves. Right. But then let's look at it. If you want to hold on to US dollars, it's just a matter of questions. How much can you hold on? Mm-hmm. And will you be strapped up with cash flow? Okay, so if you have the spare cash, well, by all means, hold it. But if you don't have the spare cash, that will be another story by itself. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult to say how much is enough to buy the US dollar in cash and hold it. Mm-hmm. You may be faced with security issues where you're holding big chunk of US dollar in your house or in the bank, or your cash will be strapped up unless you have a spare cash that you don't mind strapping up. But on top of that, I would say that our listeners or people in the streets, they can actually open up a foreign currency account.
Yeah, you can do that now in a few banks, right?
In few banks. What I know of is public banks, the IMB and Maybank.
You're talking about Malaysia.
Malaysia, they can actually open a foreign currency account, which is US dollars. This will also help them to safeguard any losses should the ringgit weaken.
So, Eric, all in all, would you advise that it's better to buy the US dollar for your kids' education right now instead of taking a risk and speculating whether it's going up or down in the next 3 to 6 months,
It all depends on how urgency or how soon will you be sending your kids over.
Or they're already there.
If they are already there, I mean, now is the time for you to hold on to
paying,
keep
fees,
paying.
Right?
So you have to hold. What I mean is get hold of some US dollars at the current price. Okay. So looking at the situation, things are not optimistic in these 1-2 months.
Great. Let's move on from parents sending the kids overseas to actual businessmen who are doing business, especially importing goods from other countries paying in US dollar or maybe even other currencies. How would you actually hedge your business risk with regards to Forex? Can you say a few words, Eric, for our listeners?
In fact, for businessmen who are importing goods, there are a few financial derivatives to hedge against possible Forex losses. Most commonly used are the current pricing contracts, where the contracts are locked in at the point of signing the contracts, so they safeguard any future changes in rates.
That means if you sign a contract now, it's based on the rate today.
So any changes will still be locked in. So it's a two-sided edge. So either you lose the money or forgo the gains.
So you're not actually speculating, but you lock in the price today.
Then another way you can actually do a deliver price contract or future pricing contracts, which you expect it to be higher or lower, but of course it must be agreeable on two parties, and the rates will be based on the delivery date.
Yes. So first of all, you must think that it's more favorable to you if you pay on the delivery date, right?
Yes.
So your customer might have to agree with you. he will also think about his part, whether he is paying more on that particular date.
So
if he's confident that he's paying less on that date, and you think it's favorable for you, then both parties can just sign a contract and get on with it.
Get on with it. And so it's either one party is going on a buy USD or sell USD. That's how you price the products. Right? So that's my take on the Forex front of today.
Right, yeah. Let's move on to the next segment of the day, that is the main story. We'll come back after this break for our main story, which is the Great Greece Bailout. Stay tuned, guys.
Hi, I'm Ramesh Kodama from the ASEAN Business Advisory Council. My message is ASEAN is a wonderful place for all of us, and I'm sure that Malaysia taking the chair for 2015, all of us are going to look into ASEAN and enjoy ourselves within ASEAN. Now you're listening to Durian ASEAN.
Welcome back, guys. This is ASEAN Biz, and I'm Andrew Chia, your host.
Hi, I'm Eric. We are back to continue with our story of the day.
Our next segment is the main story, which is the Great Greece Bailout. But before that, let's have a short, funny business moment.
Yeah, Andrew.
Starring Mr. Eric Chong.
Yeah. Okay. So, Andrew, I believe you're a businessman, and we've been talking about business.
Right.
So, actually, businessmen do a lot of traveling.
Yes.
And
we put up in hotels.
They put up in hotels, and some of the hotels have great amenities.
Right.
Which are there for the guests to use. You see, there's this particular case, which is very funny. Okay, where this businessman checked into a hotel with his wife. Okay.
Do you usually do that?
Okay.
Sometimes,
let's put in you bring your wife. Maybe certain places your wife have not been through.
Yeah, she might want to go
she
shopping
might want to go shopping while you do business. So while you make money, she spend the money.
Great.
Right. Okay. So it's a both party gain. So there's this particular businessman. He's been staying in this hotel for 3 days. And upon checking out, he saw the bills. Wow, there's an extra $150 on fruits for 3 days. So he was caught surprised, and he asked the manager, "What is this $150 about on fruits? I have not been taking
expensive fruits."
Yes, I have not been taking the fruits. Then the manager replied, "Well, we've been sending you a fruit basket every day to your room. So 3 days is $150. It's just that you didn't take advantage of it.
It was there all the while.
It was there all the while."
Right.
So the
businessman is not too happy.
Is not too happy, but he kept it calm. He looked at the bills, and he took a pen and struck out the $150. Upon seeing that, the manager was furious again. Then he said, "Hey, what are you doing? You can't subtract the $150. So the businessman said, "I'm subtracting $50 a day for your kissing of my wife." Then the manager was shocked. "I didn't kiss your wife. My wife was there every day. You didn't take it."
Yeah, fair and square.
So it's fair and square. So sometimes when there are amenities provided by the hotel, please remember to take it, okay? Or else...
so our businessmen can actually use this practical advice the next time they check into their hotels.
Yes.
And find unhappy items in their bills, right?
Yes. So if you are not bringing your wife, then too bad. You can't actually play this on.
Okay, great.
Right.
Enough of fooling around.
Let's move on
to our main story today. I'm sure most of us are aware that there's a financial crisis going on in Europe, particularly in the country of Greece. You may have heard the latest news that Greece is going to default on its loans, right?
Yes.
And that's quite soon. And the chairman of the IMF recently said she's very angry with Greece for not accepting their terms for helping Greece to pay its loans. So we are going to cover more than that in our story on Greece called the Great Greece Bailout, Part 1 and Part 2. Today we are doing Part 1 only. Besides the usual stuff, you'll find out, number one, what actually happened. A lot of people say that Greece is having a big problem. What exactly is that problem? How much money are they owing? And why it happened? Why does Greece have to borrow so much money, Eric? Yes, and also how it happened. Why people are willing to lend Greece so much money? What are the factors that cause Greece to be able to borrow so much money, right? And who are the players who will determine whether Greece will or will not default? Also, you'll find out what will happen if they actually default or are unable to pay their loans. And not only what will happen to them, but also what will happen to us in ASEAN, as well as countries in other parts of the world. Okay, let's start with some background.
Andrew, can you give us a background on the country called Greece?
Greece is a very interesting country. This country is located in the southeastern part of Europe and has a population of 11 million. How much population do we have in Malaysia, Eric?
I think to date, probably we are at about 29 million.
Including or excluding foreign workers?
Of course, excluding.
Okay, thank you very much. That is about less than half of Malaysia's population. It has only 11 million, small country. And the language they speak is Greek, in case you don't know. Athens is the capital and the largest city in Greece. And something interesting about the country is that 80% of Greece is mountains.
Wow.
Say wow.
That's
Okay. With the highest peak called Mount Olympus.
okay. That's where the
you know how high is Mount Olympus or not? I'm sure you watch all the movies.
9,000 over feet.
Yeah, from the movies that we watch, it should be
Yes.
something like 90,000, right?
90,000, yes.
Very
It looks
high,
like
man.
90,000.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, it's only 9,570 feet above sea level. There's Mount Olympus. Compare that with Malaysia. The highest mountain in West Malaysia, Eric. Do you know what's the name of our highest mountain here?
It's Gunung Tahan and it's at about 7,000 plus.
You mean it's not as high as Mount Olympus?
Definitely.
Okay. I'm sure you can level forests and jungles and build houses, but I don't think you can level mountains, right?
Well, given the greed of human beings,
They will try.
they will try and do it.
So
Okay.
we can safely say for now that 80% of Greece is not habitable for humans. And when we talk about Mount Olympus, immediately it reminds us of Greek mythology. There's fairy tales.
Yes.
And some of these fairy tales are made famous, especially after movies like...
Clash of the Titans.
Yes,
Yeah.
Clash of the Titans. And we have also other movies called... what is the other movie? Percy Jackson and the Lightning
and
Thief.
Lightning Thieves.
This
Right.
was about 5 years ago.
And Immortals.
About 4 years ago. And recently we have...
The Wrath of the Titans.
Wow, powerful.
Okay, powerful.
I can see that you're a movie goer.
Yeah. Especially on Greek mythology.
Who are the Greek gods that you are familiar with?
We have, I think the highest one is Zeus.
Yeah, the king god or
King
the father
god of
god.
gods. Poseidon.
Poseidon, and then
Hades.
Hades is the god of hell, right?
Hell, Apollo.
And Athena,
Athena.
the goddess.
Goddess.
Okay. These stories are written by who? Do you know?
If I'm not mistaken, it should be
It's a blind man,
blind man called
Mr. Homer.
Homer.
He's a blind poet,
Okay, not Homer Simpson.
right? I think he's the most powerful writer or author in ancient Greece or
Yes.
during those days.
Right.
He produced these epic movies today. Those are just stories. This nation state traces its roots to the civilization of ancient Greece, which is considered the cradle of all Western civilization. Wow, can you imagine that?
Wow.
That's very powerful, isn't it? It's
Yes.
the cradle of all Western civilization.
Which means all Western civilization originated from them.
I say, wow.
Wow.
Okay. It's the birthplace of democracy, Western philosophy, the Olympic Games, Western literature, political science. Oh, this is powerful.
So which means Greece is all the while is creating history.
Yeah, at that time, it was really the most powerful country on the planet.
And now in the modern days, they are creating a different kind of history.
Yes, let's come to that a little bit later. Let's go back to history and enjoy a little bit of ancient Greece. We forgot to mention, they are also the major scientific and mathematical birthplace. And they also specialize in Western drama, including both tragedy and comedy. The cultural and technological achievements of Greece have greatly influenced the world, having been imparted to the East through Alexander the Great's conquest and to the West via incorporation into the Roman Empire. Let's look at some of the famous people from Greece, which you may have heard of.
Well, I think I have heard of Socrates.
Ah, yes, everybody has heard of Socrates. Who are those guys that are in the same league with him?
We have Plato,
And
and I think is Hippocrates.
Hippocrates was a medical man.
Right.
If you talk about people in the area of philosophy, probably we are looking at Aristotle,
Yeah.
who is the prize student of Plato. And Plato himself was a prize student of Socrates. And between these three great men, they shaped the subject of philosophy and Western thought. These people lived between 470 BC and 322 BC. How long was that? Wow.
That was almost like close to
BC. More than 2,000
more
years
than
ago.
2,000 years ago. Okay,
Say about 2,500 years ago. That's Greece for you.
that's Greece.
So Socrates is one of the most famous philosophers of all time. Maybe we look at one or two of his quotes. Number one, he says, "The only true wisdom is knowing that you know nothing." How about that?
Okay, that's
Sounds
very
deep,
thought,
right?
Very deep. That's very deep. Okay.
Then he says something very funny. "By all means, marry." Are you married, Eric?
Yeah, sure. Why
Then, okay, you have two things that can happen to you. If you get a good wife, you will be happy. If you get a bad one, you will become a
not? Philosopher.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
Clap hand. Finally, he says something very practical. Beware of the barrenness of a busy life. That was said 2,500 years ago, Eric. Can you
Yeah.
imagine that?
And now 2,500 years later,
It's still
everybody is
applicable?
busy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I believe it's even more applicable,
More
than
applicable
at the time
today.
when he said it.
Yes.
Let's move to Plato. Plato was the most distinguished of Socrates' students. He founded the Academy in Athens, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. Let's look at some of what Plato said. Firstly, he said, "Wise men speak because they have something to say. Fools, because they have to say something." Aha, interesting.
Interesting. Okay.
He talks something very practical about knowing and getting to know people. He says this: "You can discover more about a person in an hour of play than in a year of conversation."
That's
That
very
means-
deep.
Yeah, no point talking to people.
Yeah.
Just play a game of golf with them will do.
Yes.
That's roughly what he says.
And typically, like Chinese play a game of mahjong, and you know the person's attitude.
Right. Yeah, mahjong is a very interesting game to get to know somebody. Those people with bad temper,
Bad temper can
people who
never-
like to cheat.
Yes.
You know,
can
people
shows
with-
all on the mahjong table.
Yeah, impatient, selfish, greedy, everything you know about a person, you can find on the mahjong table.
Yeah.
Right. And finally, he says something as deep as his sifu. He says this: "Human behavior flows from three sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge." That's deep, right?
Yes.
Why are we talking about all these ancient people?
Well, I think all these ancient peoples, their wisdoms will actually enlighten the
Right.
present people.
And how does it relate to our subject at hand? That is, Greece is trying to default its loans.
Well,
a
let's look
short
back
way.
on the three emotions.
Aha.
Desire.
Yes.
Yes, everybody desire a better life.
Right.
Okay. And when the better life are taken away, they become emotional.
And then
And then they think that knowledge will help them.
the knowledge to borrow money
Yes.
and not to pay back.
Yes.
Okay. Right, Eric. Folks, Eric and myself are trying to give you more interesting facts about Greece before we move to modern day Greece, particularly what is happening today. Okay? We have covered Socrates and Plato. There's another guy we want to talk about, that is Aristotle. He joined Plato's academy at the age of 18 and remained there until he was 37. He's known as the first genuine scientist in history. Wow. Although some of his ideas were thought to be ridiculous with the advent of modern science. Here are some of his quotes. "The roots of education are bitter, but the fruit is sweet." Then, "It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it."
Wow.
Okay, wow.
That's something to
That's really
plow
educated.
on. Okay,
Yeah.
there's something to plow on.
You don't need to accept everything that you think about or read about,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes.
And finally, something as deep as his earlier ancestors. That is, he says this: you will never do anything in this world without courage. Courage is the greatest quality of the mind next to honor. What do you say to that, Eric?
It's true.
Yeah, it takes courage to do everything, right?
Yes.
It takes courage to even commit suicide.
Right. And
And
it's
of course-
no joke. Those courage are commendable.
Fantastic. Although the above three famous Greeks were unparalleled during their time, they are by no means the only famous Greeks. There are other Greeks who are no less impressive in their achievements and fame in the area of science. They are, firstly, Archimedes. He is considered one of the great mathematicians and scientists in history. He made many discoveries both in mathematics and physics, including many inventions. I'm sure you have heard of the Archimedes principle and the story of Archimedes and the royal crown. Eric, you have heard of Archimedes, right?
Yes.
Very powerful guy.
Powerful
the
guy.
guy who jumped into the bathtub and then jump out and say, Eureka, I found something.
Yes.
Oh, I discovered a mathematical principle.
Right. Okay.
Then there was this guy who is a very powerful mathematician. His name is Euclid. He's a father of geometry, and he wrote a book called Elements. This book is likely to be the most famous mathematical textbook in history. Say wow.
Wow. Okay.
Most of us studied Euclidean geometry in school, although our teachers may not have told us it was invented by this great man. And the next guy is what Eric mentioned earlier, Hippocrates. A scientist of medicine, Hippocrates is called the father of Western medicine. Doctors today still take the Hippocratic oath today. And finally, we have Pythagoras. I'm sure all of you who have done maths before in
Maths,
school,
yes. Cool.
yeah, you know what is Pythagoras theorem, right?
Right.
And who invented Pythagoras theorem?
Pythagoras.
Oh, wow.
Agreed.
Fantastic. Right. Which student has not heard of Pythagoras theorem, you tell me? It's used in mathematics, especially in the branch of geometry. And yes, Pythagoras was a Greek and a very famous one too. Let's take a short break right now and come back with more interesting news on Greece. Welcome back. You're listening to ASEAN BIZ. I'm Andrew Chia.
I'm Eric Chong. Welcome back again.
We were talking about our main story today, that is the Great Greece Bailout. We are covering part 1 today, and we have just covered part of the session. We'll be moving on to more news on Greece. But before we continue, let's have a short segment on Health is Wealth, where Eric Chong will bring you some health tips to make sure you are healthy and become wealthy along the way.
Yes, and a lot of businessmen have been neglecting their health while they in the pursuit of their so-called business empire. And along the way, they lost their health, and some get sick, and some really dependent on medicines to get along with life. And today, I will just talk a little bit about water. So, Andrew, do you think how important is water?
I'm not sure how important water is. My wallet always must have some of it.
Yes, that's true. Even our wallet needs water, and we also need water ourselves for our body. And okay, let's see. You see, our body is actually mixed up of 50 to 60% of water to regulate our body temperature, help us in breathing, transporting nutrients, and carry away waste, and help our muscles to function. So which means that water is very useful to us. And a person will actually die if they goes without water for 3 days.
Dehydrated.
Dehydrations. So in other words, water is very essential to us to perform our daily activities.
Right.
To keep us healthy, to keep us active. And it's become also a weight loss factor.
You mean weight loss has something to do with water?
Yes, and somehow, though, water is used to help us control our diets. Some of us possibly go an entire day without drinking a glass of water, where every part of our body dependent on water, and most of it comprises of water.
I can understand that. Too busy. No
time to drink or eat. Okay, so let's look at some of our organs. Our brain is made up of 75% of water. Our blood is 82%, and our lungs is nearly 90%. So can you imagine the function of water in our body?
I didn't know there's so much water in our lungs.
Yes, it just consists of water.
Right.
Okay, so a lot of people will use water as a weight loss factor, simply because it keeps us more hydrated and it helps us to metabolize better. So when we are dehydrated, okay, even before you start becoming thirsty, your liver has to help the kidneys function, and it can't metabolize the fat as quickly.
Sounds dangerous.
Yeah, your metabolism slows down, and causing some unwanted fats to remain. So, which means to say, when you don't drink water, your metabolism actually slows down, and it can't metabolize the fats as quickly as possible, and those fats will remain in your body. And if your body is used not to getting water, it actually stores more in the ankle, the hips, and thighs. So as you can see, those people who doesn't drink water actually have these symptoms called a water retention symptoms. So in other words, the body does not trust you to bring in the water. So it keeps it what it wanted.
You mean my body doesn't trust me?
Yes.
Who does it trust then?
Your body will function by itself.
Oh, it has a mind of its own.
It's a mind of its own, and our body mechanism is really wonderful. So in a way, if we can't control our mind to drink more water, our body will help us to control itself.
Wow.
Okay, so once it's realized that the water are not coming, then it will just store the water. And when the water keeps coming, it realizes that they don't need the excess water to be stored. So they will get rid of the water, excess water, and you start to lose weight. Plus, if you are suffering from cravings or having trouble controlling hunger, drinking water is a quick and healthy way to feel full. Drink a glass when you are normally snacking, and have one before your meal and right before going out.
That's a good way to go on diet.
That's the good way to go on diet, because after you drink water, you feel full, you eat lesser. Okay. So having hydrated is not restricted to drinking water, milk, juice, or other liquids. Even some fruits and vegetables is a good sources of water, but avoid caffeinated beverage like coffee, sodas.
Hey, Eric.
Yes.
I'm a coffee lover, man. How
Everybody is coffee lovers, but sad to say it, as they actually cause you to lose fluids and become dehydrated. Because looking at scientific research, a cup of coffee actually makes you lose 2 cups of water.
That means if I drink a cup of coffee, I need to drink back 2 cups of water.
Not really, because after you drank the 1 cup of coffee, you lost 2 cups. Then you've got to drink another
More
2
than
cups.
2 cups.
More than 2 cups to replace back whatever water was lost.
Right.
Okay. The recommended daily amount of water is 8 cups a day. So that is just a ballpark figure. It's not actually a fixed thing. So it's all dependent on your body weight as well.
Okay.
But don't feel bad that if you are neglected your water intake. Okay. Even you constantly drink coffee or soda, you can make some simple changes in your life activities to actually help you to drink more water. Okay. So like put a bottle of water in your car.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea. And instead of taking a smoke break, why not take a water break? And set some personal rules like after you finish a glass of water, you must always refill it straight away. Then you'll be able to keep on drinking water.
Good habit.
And cultivate a good habit of eating some fruits or drinking a juice in the morning. Or get 2 bottles of water, one for the home, one for the workplace. And order water at restaurant instead of soda. So you can cultivate certain habits of drinking water to keep your water usage keep on coming.
That's a great tip.
Okay, so there will be more. These are some of the tips that I can share with you guys.
Right. Thank you so much, Eric. Water is really important for humans.
Yes, and what about water for the country?
Yes, we'll come back to Greece. Greece need a lot of water. By the way, guys, if you're not Malaysian, especially Malaysian Chinese, you might not know or understand what we are talking about. The Chinese equate water to money.
Yes.
Having a lot of money means having a lot of water.
Yeah.
Strange, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, let's come back to Greece, Eric. Just now we covered quite a bit on ancient Greece.
Yes.
Now we talk about modern Greece.
So what's the modern Greece are actually reflecting on the water?
Okay, let's look a little bit at history on modern Greece. The modern Greek state was established in 1830, following the War of Independence from the Ottoman Empire. Greece is a democratic and developed country with an advanced high-income economy, a high quality of life, and a very high standard of living. The country's economy was devastated by the Second World War. When was that, Eric? Second World War.
Second World War, if I remember my history correctly, it should be in the region of about 1940 to 1945.
Around there, yes.
Around there, right.
1941 to be exact.
Some countries started earlier.
Yeah, right.
Okay, they started the war earlier.
And some ended later also.
Right, okay.
And the high levels of economic growth that followed the Second World War throughout the 1950s to the 1970s in Greece was dubbed the Greek economic miracle. That means growth was very fast until to the extent they call it a miracle growth.
And they are enjoying good life during that period. Yes, okay. So as we all know, right now, Greece is having some kind of serious economics or debt problem. When did it all start?
Okay, let's come to the main story now. When did it all start? Yeah, that's a good question. Compared with all the earlier heroes mentioned earlier, Greece today is really a pale shadow of its former self. I'm sure you agree with that. We have covered so many heroes in ancient Greece.
Yes.
And right now, modern Greece is more of a problem child compared to heroes.
Yeah.
The Greek government debt crisis, also known as the Greek Depression, and recently known as the Greece bailout, and soon to be known as Grexit, which stands for Greece exit.
That's something new for Google.
Hey, that's already the buzzword today, Grexit.
Okay.
If you don't know Grexit, you don't know Greece.
So very soon we will be coining new words for more countries.
Yeah, you know the economists today, they keep coining new words. You know, during the subprime crisis in America, they have the term called toxic assets. Just imagine that. Assets can become toxic.
Yes, I thought body only can become toxic.
Right, and printing money is called
quantitative easing.
Beautiful
names,
isn't it?
So we will bring you more news and more enlightenment of what this is all about.
Right, now we are talking about Grexit. Greece exit. Exiting what? Exiting the Eurozone. Okay, so where are we now? Okay, when did it all start? It started between the end of 2009 and April 2010. What happened was the debt to GDP ratio went up to 149% in 2010. We'll have more about debt to GDP ratio shortly. And after that, credit rating agencies responded to this event by downgrading the Greek government debt to junk bond status. This means that it's below investment grade. You cannot invest in this country anymore.
That's very detrimental to the country.
Right. They found the presence of a growing high risk for a sovereign default. And the government bond yields responded by rising into unsustainable territory, making the private capital lending market inaccessible as a funding source for Greece. This means that the Greek government is no longer able to borrow any more money.
So how do they survive without borrowings?
That's a good question. You actually cannot survive without borrowing, right?
Yes.
They talk about belt tightening and all stuff.
Austerity drive,
poor countries. Rich people with big bellies, if you talk about belt tightening, it's really big torture for them. Mm-hmm.
So, you've been talking about GDP against debts. Okay, so how much is the GDP of Greece? By the way, what is GDP is all about?
For some of us who have never studied economics before, and we always hear about people talking about terms like GDP and growth and stuff like that, GDP actually stands for Gross Domestic Product. What is this? It means the total value of goods and services produced within a country for a single year. Again, the total value of goods and services produced within a country for a single year. Why we want to talk about GDP? Because it is a useful way of measuring and comparing the economic size and growth between countries. And besides this, Greece is classified as an advanced high-income economy. The economy of Greece is the 43rd largest in the world at $240 billion US dollars, according to World Bank statistics. And this is for the year 2013. In 2013, Greece is the 13th of the 28 member European Union EU countries. It's the 13th largest economy in the EU. In terms of per capita income, Greece is ranked 37 in the world.
Wow. So 37 in the world out of how many countries?
We have about 200 countries in this planet. We'll come to that shortly. But right now, let's compare it with a country like Malaysia, shall we?
Okay.
Yeah, Malaysians, right,
Yeah.
Eric?
Yes. Give us the statistics.
So just now we mentioned Greece economy is 240 billion. Do you know how big is Malaysia's GDP?
Well, if to date, if I'm not mistaken, it should be around 350 to 360 billion.
Right, yes, about 360 billion. And Greece, that means Greece is 2/3 the size of our economy.
Yes, but their population is 1/3 the size of our
economy.
population.
Which means they are doing actually relatively well in terms of GDP, right?
Yes, the productivity is quite high.
Malaysia is ranked 35th in the world. Greece is ranked at 37th, isn't it?
So it's more like Abang Adik already.
But we are different from Greece in the sense that we are classified only as a developing country, whereas Greece is a developed country. How we can rectify that is that we
produce more or owe more debts or borrow more money.
Right, yeah. If we borrow more money or owe more money,
yes,
we can become a developed country, right?
Yeah. So
okay, give me a 5. Yay.
Yes.
Okay. Just kidding lah.
Okay.
That's not how you want to do to develop a country, isn't it?
Put the country into more debts.
Yeah. Coming back to the question, how many countries are there in the world? 200. You have 200 countries in the world.
You mean that's few?
Depending on who recognizes who, the world today has between 195 to 207 countries. For simplicity's sake, we put it at 200 countries. Yes, the planet only has 200 countries today.
Okay, I thought it's more than that.
Yeah, some guy told me we have about at least 1,000 countries in the world. I don't know how he did his counting.
Yes.
Maybe he counted the individual states.
Yeah, maybe
as a country.
United States, they will count 49 countries.
50 countries.
50 countries. Okay. So let's look at the other things like, okay, how much is the Greece debt?
Yes.
And what's the percentage of its GDP?
We mentioned their GDP just now was 240 billion, right?
Yes.
Right now they are owing 360 billion. The figure is 2010.
So they are closing up into Malaysia already.
Yes, their loans debts is same as our GDP.
Okay, so which means we need to borrow more lah.
Or rather, they need to borrow less.
They need to borrow less.
Okay.
But too bad. Okay.
That was a figure in 2010, and at 360 billion in debts, that is 150% of their GDP. Is that high or low?
It's pretty high, but how high is high? That
we
depends on the IMF ratings.
Yes, we will come to IMF rating in part 2 of our series.
Yes.
So that, guys, you can come back for our next session on Greece, part 2.
To have a better understanding of what is the rating is all about.
Yeah, just now we mentioned is 150%, and that figure is in 2010. Right now in 2015, their debt to GDP ratio is 180%.
Close to 200% already.
Almost double.
Almost double. So can you imagine that?
The next interesting question.
Okay.
Why?
Why? And with all these factors, and why are they into such a high debts? Okay. And
what are
caused
the things
Greece
that
to have such cost the things?
Interesting question, isn't it? So the answer is here. The main reason why Greece is having a lot of debt problems is tax evasion. It is estimated that each year, the amount of taxes not collected by the government adds up to about 25% of the country's GDP.
So which means to say that the citizens are more richer than the government now.
Right.
Because
All
they
along,
evaded tax.
they have been evading tax.
Okay.
So that is the thing that caused the government to
They
owe
keep
so
more
much
money to themselves than giving to the government.
Right, yeah. And how they manage to evade tax is due to corruption. The officials of the tax department are routinely and easily bribed. The government spends more money each year trying to collect taxes, but ended up collecting less taxes instead, due to bribery and corruption.
Wow. So corruption can be such a detrimental factors to the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with all this borrowing, Andrews, definitely they will pay interest rates.
Yeah, of course.
So what sort of interest rate are you going to pay for such a high debts?
Right. We have to make some comparison. If a
Yes.
government borrows money, the interest rate is higher or lower than if a personal or a company.
Because if every time we borrow money, we borrow a loan, we look at BLR. So
right.
when a government borrows money, what sort of factors or what sort of benchmark they are looking at?
Yeah, there are no such thing as BLR.
What
we know that is a government that borrows money, the interest rate will be at most 4%. Anything more than 4%, the government is deemed to be a very risky sovereign debt country.
Yes.
Yeah, so people,
High
banks
risk.
or other countries will not lend to them at less than 4%.
Or they will lend it at higher rates. So what sort of rates that Greece are paying?
Interesting question. As mentioned earlier, the yield for government bonds went into unsustainable territory. Now, what exactly do we mean by the term unsustainable territory? It simply means that the interest is so high that it is not likely that the loans can be repaid.
So which means to say that the lender can just kiss their money goodbye.
No, they just charge a very high interest rate.
Yeah.
And then they just play big small.
Big small.
Whether you get a default or you don't get a default.
Or they can contrive with cities.
Oh, wow. Okay, we'll come to that later. Okay, so Greece, we have a chart here. It shows that Greece right now is paying something like 12% on the loans that they borrowed.
That's very high.
That's 3 times the maximum amount of interest they're supposed to pay.
Yes, and almost like 3 times the BLR of Malaysia.
Wow. And Eric, if you think that is high, let me tell you, 2 years ago, they are paying more than that.
How more is more?
How about 30%?
That's Along rate already. Don't fool me, Andrew.
Yeah, you think only personal people, humans, individuals can borrow from Along. Governments also can borrow at Along rate, isn't it?
Okay. So which means there are bigger Alongs out there.
Right, and they lend to Greece at almost 30% interest rate per annum. Is it any wonder right now Greece is refusing to pay back their loans?
Yes, because they have been charged exorbitant interest.
How can you pay back at that rate?
Yes.
Even at 12% is impossible.
It's the same scenario when individuals borrow from loan sharks with the high interest rate, and individual will never finish off his debts.
Yes, and right now, if we bring our listeners to the latest news, now we can understand why Mr. Tsipras, the Prime Minister of Greece, is refusing any form of package or negotiation to pay back their loans on time.
Yeah, they are seeking
extension after extension and haircut after haircut.
Yes, and the latest been announced yesterday. They are seeking an extension of maybe about 6 months. So now it's subject to the approval of IMF.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that's our update for our main story today. I hope you enjoyed it.
And hope you comes back to our channels and listen to the part 2 of the Grexit.
Right. Grexit part 2 will be on in our next session, and we'll bring you the latest update, bring you up to date with the latest news on this event.
Yes, and our current home front and ASEAN front.
Let's go our break, Eric.
Okay.
Stay tuned, guys.
Stay tuned and see you guys next event. Okay, bye.